Hi there, welcome back. Another interesting problem, HackerRank, on data structures and algorithms. This one is super confusing. Not because the problem is difficult, my job is to make it easy for you, but because the explanation and the description of the problem from HackerRank could be better. Guys, what are you doing in HackerRank? Why don't you write it in a bit more explainable and understandable English language? So shout outs to HackerRank for the great work they have done, but I think they could do a better job with writing the description for this one. But I will pause here and I will ask for a favor. If you haven't already, and if you are of the 86% of the people who watch my channel and have not subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. You have no idea in how many different ways that helps me and encourages me to build free content for you. I spend a lot of time studying the problem, putting it back to pieces, and help you understand how to solve it. So all you have to do is just be kind and subscribe to my channel. I would really love to drop that 86% to 50% as soon as possible. So that's my favor to ask from you. Now, let's jump into this one. And as I said, this is a very interesting and a confusing one. I'm just going to make my face a bit smaller. And if you're a frequent watcher of my channel, I have a Jupyter notebook in black. That's what you see here. But also, I have the actual HackerRank website in white. This should help you understand what is going on in here. This problem is called dynamic array. It's an easy one. Apparently, 87.59% of the people have completed it. But let's see what exactly is this problem when I call it confusing. I'm just going to make it a bit, I can't really do it. But let me help you understand what is going on. This will take me a couple of minutes to actually tell you what the problem is. Declare a two-dimensional array of ARR. Okay, let's just say ARR is going to be a 2D array. I'm just going to write some notes down here with n empty arrays. Okay, it has to have n empty arrays. Maybe it will look like this for now. It has two empty arrays now. So if I assume that n equals 2, I don't know, we will ask the user how many, but for now, if n is 2, this array will look like this. It will have 1 and 2 empty arrays. Taking notes. All 0 indexed. Okay, that's fine. Declare an integer. We have an integer called last answer. Okay, let's do that. We have another integer that's called last answer that equals something. I don't know what it is. For now, I will set it to 0 because I don't know what it is. And initialize it to 0. Okay, so it was okay. I initially declared it as 0. That's good. You need to process two types of queries. Okay, there are two types of queries. Query 1xy. Does that make sense? Not really, but I'm going to take notes. I'm just going to take notes. Query 1xy. I don't know what it is, but let's see what it is. Compute idx with some condition. I'll come back to this. Park that in your head for now. Don't worry about it. For now, wait. Append the integer y to array of idx in that index. That's okay. So that's type 1 of the queries. We have it. Query type 2. I can see that query type 1 is actually declared as number 1 because there is a number 1 there. And query number 2xy. Okay. I have another type of query, which is 2 and x and y. The query type will part of the input that the user gives me. For example, the user will tell me, hey, this one is type 1. How do I know? They will tell me here that it's type 1. If it is type 2, they will tell me that it is type 2. So if it is type 1, I will do some form of operation. If it is type 2, I will do another form of operation. So keep that in your mind. We have two types of queries. That's good. Now let's see if it is type 1, what we're going to do, and if it is type 2, what we're going to do. This is where the confusion comes, and I will make it easy. Just bear with me. I'm going to start with query type 1. Let's have a look at query type 1, but there is some common ground between query type 1 and query type 2, and that's this section. X bitwise last answer. Let me show you what it is. So XOR, or bitwise operation, I'll show you from Wikipedia what it is. XOR, or exclusive OR, is a specific type of bitwise operation. Let me just zoom in a bit so you can see it. It's a specific type of bitwise operation. Bitwise operations are operations that manipulate individual bits of a binary number. XOR is one of the several bitwise. So there are so many different bitwise operations. Exclusive OR is one of them. I'll show you in graphics. Maybe I'll show you an image. So I would love to go into the detail of what bitwise is, but it's going to take a really long time for me to kind of make it clear because this is a bit operation. But what I'm really going to ask you is think about it as something that Python understands how to do. For the purposes of this problem, that's all you need to do. All you need to be able to do is to write it in Python. And that's what I have done here, because it says if it is a query type 1, you will have to find x XOR last answer. This is what I need, last answer. The reason I am building this right now is because, say, if x equals 2 and last answer we have declared it to be 0, let me run this, and if x is equal to 2, if I run this, I will get an answer. Whether what that operation is really doing in the background, I do not care, because I am able to replicate what HackerRank is telling me. And the reason I started with this one is because both query 1 and both query 2 will need it, and they call it IDX. So I'm going to write this IDX. Let me make sure I write it. IDX equals X XOR last answer. This is very important. Keep this in mind that this is fundamental to this problem. I have created it. Do I understand what it is exactly doing? I don't really care. I'm just going to do it. All right, so I'm just going to get rid of X because I don't need it. All I needed was to create this, because once I have created this line, I have created it for both of them. It's only that now, what do we do next? In query type 1, once you get IDX, which equals X XOR last answer, you append the integer y. Where does y come from? Well, it comes here. It comes from here because, as I said, query type 1 has got 1, x, and y. That's very easy now. Query type 2 has got 2, x, and y. It is just different. What do we do with those numbers? All right. So I think I'm getting there. For query type 1, that will be in the form of 1xy. I will have to get IDX, which equals X XOR last answer. That's what I need. Now let me make some space with query number 2. Once I do that, I will append the integer y to array in the index of IDX. Where does the IDX come from? Well, I calculated it. So all I need to do now is to go to my array and append y in the index of IDX. So how do I find the index of IDX? Well, you put it here. That's how you put the index of an array. That's how you address it. Okay. What am I appending? I am appending y. That's what I'm appending. I think query number 1 is completed. I have completed it. I will fix all of these code, but this is just the learning bit. What do I do with query type 2? Well, I'm just going to read and do it. So query number 2 comes in. What do? I need to compute IDX exactly the same. Okay, so go down and you have to compute IDX exactly the same, no differences. But the next operation is just a bit different. You will set last answer. Okay, I'm going to change last answer. Just going to go last answer. This time equals, because it says you have to set it as to what? Array in that index. Okay, array in IDX. Where does IDX come from? Well, IDX comes from here. I calculated it here. And then I have to do something just a bit new. It says you have to add this bit. That's okay. Don't worry. I'll tell you what it is. Very soon, you'll be able to construct it back to the code. Look at this. Let me talk to you. I don't need this anymore. Let me talk to you about the concept of modulo. If I run 2 modulo 5, the answer will be 2. You may ask, hey, what does it do? The modulo operator calculates how many times of 5 exist in number 2. 2 is very small for 5 to exist inside it. And it says, look, not many, well, 0 number of 5 exist in 2, and the remainder, and that's the key word, the remainder is 2. So if I divide 2 by 5, the remainder will be 2. I know that we can go, 2 divided by 5 can be a float number. No, that's not what the modulo operator does. The modulo operator says, how many healthy 5s can you fit inside 2, and tell me what the remainder is? Well, the remainder is 2. But if I make this 12, the answer is going to be exactly 2 again, because inside 12, there are 2 5s. 5 and 5 is 10. Put it aside. What is the remainder? 2 again. If you make this 23, the modulo will be 3. Okay, so I think right now you might be understanding what the modulo does. And this is what we're going to do. So for this one, we will find the modulo of y. All right, let me write it. I will find the modulo of y with what? With the size of array within the index that we have calculated. How do we calculate the size in Python? Well, we have a function called len. We will calculate the len of what? The len of array at that index. So at that array at that index. Surprisingly, we have finished it. We just now need to put the pieces together to form the solution for this HackerRank problem. So let me do that. What I will do, I'll just delete this example. Let me see if I need to do any cleaning. I might need to bring this one down. I don't like that query because the queries I have written here doesn't make any sense to Python. I just need to make sure This happens in a for loop or in a while loop that the user gives me something, then I will fix what query it is and what operation needs to be done. But let's continue with a description of the problem. The problem here, I think I'll show you the sample input. The user will give me a number, which is 2 in here. That's the size of array. Okay, that's the size of array that I was talking about. So I will receive something called n, and I will then receive something called the number of queries. Here I will receive 5 queries based on the sample input because it says size of queries q equals 5. So I will get an n and I will get a q. That's good. Then I will get the queries line by line. Now you can see that this is first query, second query, third query, fourth query, and fifth query. Each of them has exactly the same format. The type of query, is it type 1 or is it type 2? X and Y. Type of query, X and Y. Type of query, X and Y. So that's the format I'm going to be getting them. But before we jump into writing the clean code, let's see what HackerRank has given us. HackerRank says you will receive n from the user, okay? And you will receive queries from the user, that's fine. And then you will start putting an empty array of queries. What I will do, I will just copy all these lines, right? I will bring them here because I want to be able to replicate exactly what HackerRank wants. So I will run this, and then let me come back here. And then I will run a for loop that will get the user input over time. And once I have received all of these examples from the user, my function will start working. So the function I have to define is called dynamic array, which I will see that it's ready for me to develop. Let me copy that and I will make a new one here. All right, so we will receive the input from the user, the n and the q, and within this for loop, which is down, go away. Within this for loop, we will receive the queries from the user. Let me just also add that. I have all the elements from HackerRank. Now, what I will do, I'll start putting together the dynamic array function that I have to develop. All right, let's first create an empty array. This is what we were told. And we will say, hey, I want you to create a number of empty arrays for the number that the user tells us. That has to be the range of n. So the user will tell me, I want an empty array of size 2, or I want an empty array size of 5, whatever the user tells me. This creates an empty array. Let me show you. If I copy this, and if I run this code separately and I set n to 2 as an example, you will see that this is an empty array with 2 empty arrays in it. That's what it's doing. So let me delete that. So once I have got that, I then need to set my last answer because I said we have to set it to 0 when we start with based on what HackerRank told me. And the next thing we have to do is create an empty array which holds the answers. Because remember, we have to return at the end the output to the user. And the user will understand what the outcome of all of this operation is. I need to have an empty container that when I find the answers, I drop them into the empty container. And that's the empty container. This one is my empty container. All right. Now that I've got all of this, I need to write a for loop to go through queries, understand is it query type 1 or 2, then understand what is x, what is y, and run the operation. As easy as that. So I will take each query separately. Where do they come from? They come from something called queries. The user will give me queries. And what I will do, I will first form something called query type, because the user will tell me what the query type is. Where does that query live? Well, it is 105 here. So if I take the first index from each query, which sits at index 0, that will define what query type it is, right? Once I have that, x comes from the second element in the query because that sits in index 1, and y comes from the third element in that query. So it's easy days now. I have got the query type, I have the x, and I have the y. All I have to do is to go back up here and say, if it is query type 1, do this. If it is query type 2, do this. So I'll do that. If query type, right, equals 1, then do something, right? Let me just write pass as a placeholder. And then else, you will do something different. So what are the things that we will be doing? Well, I have them up here. If it is query type 1, I want you to do this. Let me copy that. I will delete pass because it was only a placeholder, right? And if it is query type 2, I want you to do this because I have already developed them. All I have to do is paste them here. Let me just make sure all is good. So you've got a dynamic array function that creates an empty array. Last answer is there. You've got a placeholder. The next thing we have to do, once we find the answers, we have to drop them into the answers. But if I were to optimize this code, you can see that for both query type 1 and query type 2, I will have this IDX anyways. So why did I put it both in here and here? What I will do, I'll take this out, right? I think that just makes the code a bit more professional. I'll put it up here, right? And I will delete it from here as well. This just makes it a bit more professional code. What I didn't really read through was what do we do with the answers that we get? I think the requirement is that once you find the last answer in query type 2, you put it back into the answers. Let me find it. It returns the results of each type 2 query, not type 1. Don't worry about type 1. If it is a type 2 query, in the order they are presented. So it means that every time I find the last answer from type 2 query, I will have to go to my answers. Did I call it answers? Yes. I'll have to take this answers and then append the new last answer to it. And once done, all I have to do is return answers. What I will do, I will copy all of this dynamic array, all right, and I will paste it into HackerRank. Let's see if it works actually. I'll paste it in here. Let me make sure the indentation is correct. So you've got a dynamic array, there's a for loop. All right, I'm just gonna test it. I'll run the code and hope for the best. Let me see. There might be some naming convention. List index out of range. Yeah, what I have missed is the modulo with n. If I show you in here, when we were doing the IDX in here, we have to go modulo n, otherwise it won't be the actual bitwise collection. So let me just go back up and add it to my IDX. So I'll go modulo n. This all together, so this whole thing becomes the XOR. So if I run the code again, I think it should be fixing it. Yes, the sample test case ran successfully. And if I submit the code, hopefully all test cases are successful. Yes, they are. So thank you for listening. What I'm trying to do here is really help you think rather than give you the answer. So break the problem into smaller pieces all the time. And if you enjoyed this, send it to a friend, let them learn as well, because that's how you grow. If you let other people grow, that definitely helps you grow. Thank you very much.